session today. Um, I am just restarting the recording at the moment. Um, just give us a moment here. See, make sure that everything is fine. So again, just make sure that you know that we are recording these sessions to make them available to you on the Honors Teams platform, as well as on the student support YouTube channel. So be on the lookout. So in our last session today, we have Dr. Cody Sang and Mrs. Deisel, and they are going to help you and support you about thinking, and they're going to have a look at thinking differently about challenges today. Over to the two of you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for understanding. I understand it has been a long day. I've been part of the meeting in and out, and I could imagine everybody now want to focus on other aspects of their lives. Our presentation is not going to be long. I will also make sure that I share all the necessary information, but I do not delay on one aspect. I am with Lisa Deisel. She will be part of this presentation. We must understand that everything that we do, it starts with the thought, how we perceive what we are doing and how we think about our journeys, ourselves, our studies, our lectures, the content of the assignment, the content of the study guide. Today, I read an email where a student said my attitude was wrong from the beginning. I just saw the font of the study guide and I felt discouraged. So today we thought we will just help you with regard to thinking differently about challenges, because in the journey, we experience challenges. We have been talking now about challenges with regard to teams. It's also how you think about the challenge you have that either help you to manage, to navigate, or it help you to feel paralyzed and you can't move further. Lisa? So let's start with what are the common challenges that UNISA students face? What challenges are you experiencing? And I think one of the common one we were talking about now is the online issue. Sometimes we struggle, sometimes we are affected, and it's a huge challenge. But depending on how you look at that challenge, it also impacts on you. What are the challenges are you experiencing now? What are other challenges you have heard other students saying they are experiencing? Lisa, let's take some time to reflect on this scenario where Sipo is a postgraduate student and has been given a feedback regarding his first assignment. He has been thinking about giving up on his studies since it seems that he's not ready to study at honors level. And you can imagine the reason that SIPO want to give up is because the feedback is that his assignment is not what he has expected, the assignment results, especially being a postgrad student, because you already have a perception of yourself that you can get this. Maybe it's even for the first time in your life that you will fail this first assignment. And how does that impact on you and how you think about, I can't do this. Maybe these lectures are just too strict, and you can't manage already. Maybe when you receive this first assignment, you are thinking you're going to fail. What a waste of money, and you don't have time. But let's look at this as a challenge already. Your perception towards a challenge is very important. How you view a situation determines your actions and how you feel. We have got this psychological model which talks about cognitive behavioral therapy. They always talk about our thoughts, our feelings, and our behavior. And in our journey of studies, we are actually stuck with that because whatever you think about, it affects how you feel and it affects what you do afterwards. So people have different ways of viewing situations, but how they view those situations also impact on them. And two people might see one situation differently. We must also understand that challenges relate to many different aspects of our lives or also of our journey as we are studying. So currently, when you are studying as a postgrad student, we cannot only talk about the challenges with my life and teams and all that. We must also acknowledge that you might be experiencing challenges that can be related to how you connect to others. It could be at home, at work, at university, and or at church. That is a challenge also that we need to look at, because at the end it affects your studies. As a student, you may also experience challenges regarding how you relate to your studies, to fellow students and staff members at the university. We spoke yesterday that when we look at you as a holistic person. There is your career, your studies, and your personal life. Those three aspects as well. When we are talking about challenges, also then we are looking at the challenges you could experience, whether at university or outside, but your perception of all those challenges also impact on you. It is normal to feel overwhelmed when challenges arise, but as the challenge persists, we may start to feel helpless and want to give up. Remember also, because we are academics, we are intellectuals, sometimes we tend to judge ourselves and how we are responding to the challenge, not even to normalize that how we are feeling or our struggle is a normal response to that particular situation. And that normally leads us to feeling very helpless, feeling that we are not in control and we are not good enough. And that normally demotivates most people. We must also remember that as we experience challenge, it's also normal that panic may set in and we start to doubt our capabilities to resolve the issues. Sometimes people, even when they've got personal challenges, they then look at themselves and say, but I've got an honors degree, I'm studying for an honors degree. Possibly I should be able to resolve a problem in relationship. As a challenge arises, we often find ourselves spending a lot of time focusing on what we cannot control. By nature, human beings likes being in control, but the opposite is that they also tend to focus on what we cannot control, and that creates a dilemma for us. Instead, we could shift our focus to appreciate the things we can control. In any aspect, in any situation, if you are dealing with challenges, the first thing you need to be honest about is, what is it that I can control? What is it that I cannot control? Because if you do that, it helps you to understand, this is what I need to focus on. And then there is a snowball effect, that things you can control impact on things you cannot control. But as I said earlier on, by nature, we tend to focus on things we cannot control, and that's where we get defeated. Therefore, it's important to remember what I can control. What is it that I can control? Your attitude towards your challenge must also be quite focused on, what can I control now? There are some aspects you can control despite your challenge. Irrespective of the challenge you find yourself, there are certain things you can control. And as I said earlier, it's important to spend more time to strengthen what you can control. You might have failed an assignment, but what can you do now that you can control? I will give you an example here. Even though you have limited time, you manage to start with your studies and you are doing very well. This gives you a sense of hope that you could in future change you and your family circumstances by completing your honors degree. You now have the motivation to start negotiating with others how they can support you. Take over household chores, saying no to other more commitments. So if we think about you are here now with your honor studies, you might not be where you think you could be, as we shared yesterday. But think about what you can control now. You cannot start saying, but I have no guarantee whether I will be employed and I will get that money and when. You have no control over that, but there are things you could be doing that you can control as well. We need to understand that there are some aspects we cannot control. And remember that as you focus on things you cannot control, you become more aware of your challenges and you could feel overwhelmed and even helpless about your situation. That's what psychologically why people get very helpless. And we will talk further about this later during the week, because the minute you start focusing on things you are not in control, that's where depression sets in. It's the feeling of being helpless and being defeated. But it started with a thought that I'm not in control, I cannot do anything about it, or your perception is that you cannot do anything about it. We can imagine this example where you are struggling to find enough time for your studies due to several events beyond your control. There is power outages, there is work demands, or even experiencing loss. But you can acknowledge the impact of this on your studies. But if you only think about the hopelessness of the situation, you may even become more overwhelmed, and this will affect your motivation to study. Last year, I was talking to a student who shared with me that load shedding is very frustrating because it's normally during the times that she wants to study, and she's a working student. So I said to her, why can't we relook? Every time there is load shedding, you actually use that time to rest and sleep. And then then you are off load shedding, then you study. That was one thing she could control, her own program and her own ability to shift things around. And that worked for her. So it could be a smallest thing that you need to realize I'm in control of the smallest things in the midst of the complexities and the challenges you have. And if you focus on them, it can impact on you. How do you think about your challenges? That's the question I'm asking you. Think about how do you normally think about your challenges? How do you normally react to changes? When do you actually perceive a situation as a challenge? That is very important to just reflect on. How do you normally react to changes? When do you perceive a situation as a challenge? When you encounter challenges, also ask yourself, do you tend to withdraw from your goals? Do you feel helpless and hopeless? Do you become doubtful about your future? Do you then lack motivation, or you feel vulnerable and lack self-confidence? At times, people always come to counseling and say, I don't have confidence. And they don't understand that the lack of self-confidence started with the perception when they looked at the studies or whatever they are doing as a challenge, and then they felt that I'm not good enough. Because there are times when we have got a challenge, we also then look at ourselves that I'm not the right person. I don't have capacity or resources to deal with that. And that impacts on you. Let's quickly talk about negative view of a challenge, which is important for us to be aware so that we can always guard ourselves. That's when you view a challenge as a punishment. The fact that you failed an assignment, you said, should these lectures are punishing us, and taking a challenge as a downfall. Thinking that you are a failure, you cannot separate a challenge from you as a person. And you blame others for your challenges. It will be either UNISA, the lectures, your family, your boss, but you don't see yourself as part of this challenge on how you are responding to the challenge. Making excuses, being angry towards yourself and others, and also viewing yourself as a victim of circumstances. Sometimes when we do this, it's very normalized, but already that's the negativity, and that negativity impact on how you succeed as well. Let's now talk about the concept of taking risk. Sometimes we talk about taking risk or healthy risk. When you are experiencing a challenge or when you are faced with a situation, give yourself permission that I've got the freedom to take a risk in attending this, and this is called a healthy risk. That's when you decide not to take, when you decide not to take a healthy risk, you must remember that you are robbing yourself an opportunity to learn, just to say, let me try and see whether I can resolve this. Taking necessary risk could help you to test your perception of reality. Remember, in any situation, there is a perception and there is a reality. The perception is normally in our heads, our thoughts, our views, which is clouded by a number of aspects. But there is a reality in the ground when we start living. Could I have said now when Dr. Stander says it's the end of the program to say, she ignored me. That's my perception. Did I check with her? And then there was an honest mistakes because the program does not show us that we appear today. And it's the smallest things. So I just took a risk to say, Dr. Stander, we are supposed to present. It's as practical as that. It happens in all situations where we need to allow ourselves to test the reality, not the perception of the situation. It's always very important for us to deal with challenge. There is this aspect which relates to challenges, and it's the concept of emotional intelligence and relationships. A lot of times people think that, everybody can manage challenges and all that, but our emotions play a role. As I said, there is thoughts, feelings, and behavior. We tend to overlook the impact of emotional intelligence on managing our relationships with others. And I could imagine in the groups there are students for industrial psychology or colleagues from industrial psychologists, and you will agree with me that the concept of emotional intelligence, there were times that was very popular in corporate, and people will go into training and companies will spend a lot of money. But unfortunately, this is one aspect that is not emphasized when it comes to our academic. Remember, when we are managing relationships, we are also managing emotions, whether it's during good or bad times. You must remember we are emotional human beings, and all of us have got the need to be accepted and to feel worthy. And when we have got challenges, that gets triggered. In turn, we also need to be able to love and to accept and also to be accepted. And those are issues that when we are dealing with challenges also impact on how we handle challenges. Most of us tend to spend our lives in our heads. We dismiss our emotions and choose not to attend to the emotions or even emotions of others. And you also need to understand people hurt each other when in pain due to lack of emotional intelligence. It is normally understood as a communication problems, and it's then said you don't know how to communicate, whereas the real issue is lack of empathy in communication. And we had brought this in this presentation specifically because at UNISA, there is always a huge issue between the relationship between students and their lectures. Sometimes because I failed an assignment, I just feel like I need to give this lecture a piece of my mind. But the real issue is that it's not even about the assignment. It's also other issues that I'm going through in my life. Some years ago, I used to be part of the disciplinary. And when we have to be involved in some of these matters, it would be more about the emotions that a person is going through during that particular time than the issue we are dealing with at that moment. I have just made it a very brief and not a very academic description, what then is emotional intelligence? It's the ability of being connected to your own emotions, knowing what you are feeling or not feeling, what your emotions mean, and how your emotions affect you, how you express your expression of emotions affect others. And this is key, because when we have got challenges, we might run to resolving a challenge, whereas you are guided by the emotions, and it becomes very difficult for you and the people who need to support you. Why is it important? You might have heard earlier is that you need to be in touch with emotions and know how to express them maturely. You need to recognize and acknowledge and manage your own emotions. You need to understand how your emotions affect your decisions, your behavior, your relationship with others, as well as your success. You need to take responsibility for your own emotions. There are students at UNISA who have been expelled because after they fail exams, when they interact with lectures, they become quite aggressive, and they even threaten to kill the lecturer. I will sort you out and all those things. And you are just emotional. And that's why the issue of emotional intelligence is very important when we are dealing with challenges, so that we understand where we are, what we are dealing with, and how do we reach out to other people, and also that we do not offload our emotions and toxicity to other people's as well. Yes, emotional intelligence it also means honesty. Emotional intelligence is not about being nice all the time. It is about being honest. But it's about being smart with your emotions. You don't sugarcoat things, you don't shy away from the truth, but you are also able to have crucial conversation with others and with yourself. You can be honest and direct. You are also able to apologize when you are wrong. Yesterday, I was talking to a colleague of mine, and we spoke about a situation where somebody was given an opportunity to apologize, and this person says, I cannot apologize. And this matter now has to be ruled out by the courts at the expense of other people. Whereas this person, where I was sitting to say, you can have integrity and you can be professional enough to say, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. You can also be able to handle negative feedback without blame and denial. You are open-minded and you can deal with differences or diversity. It's also very important to understand that emotional intelligence is about healthy boundaries. It's about being able to set healthy boundaries for yourself and for other people. Some of us now, we are going to start studying in groups. We're going to have study groups. We're going to study together. We're going to be interacting. How do you set boundaries for yourself and other students as well? But I like this quote by Brené Brown, who say, daring to set boundaries is about the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. When you think about yourself as a student, if you really want to invest on your studies, there are a lot of things that you must learn to say no to. And that might feel like disappointing other people. But if you really love yourself and your career and where you are going, then you will be able to say no and disappoint others. At the end, we must understand that emotional intelligence is about self-awareness, realistic self-assessment to say, I'm angry and I'm disappointed when experiencing this challenge. The ability to understand and recognize your moods and emotion, as well as the effect on others, and also being able to self-regulate. Yesterday, I spoke about inhibition and the pressure to get things very quickly, and to the extent that we are willing to get a qualification at whatever cost, then we are not able to self-regulate. trustworthiness and integrity. All people with emotional intelligence, they are regarded as trustworthy because they express what they are feeling. They are very honest. They are very comfortable with their yes or no. Ability to think before acting, empathy, and ability to understand the emotions of others. Why this is important, we started with thinking differently about challenges, and we spoke now about emotional intelligence when dealing with challenges. This is important, and this is important for you as a graduate because it will lead to better mental health. Your perception of how you deal with challenges, including your emotional intelligence, contribute to better mental health. It also contributes to healthy, strong, and trustworthy relationship. A lot of people are struggling in their journey of their studies because they can't even say no or yes to what they need, and they are not open. It also creates optimism and self-confidence. Colleagues, I must tell you, where you are in this journey of your studies, you can't do it if you don't believe in yourself and you don't have hope. It also creates success. You are able to take a healthy risk and prepare for opportunities. You need to be able to come out of your comfort zone without being worried about being wounded. It also means that you can negotiate a relationship where people can relate as emotional beings. Let's take some time to reflect on the following questions, which you can reflect at your own time. Write down your challenge on a piece of paper, the challenge you have now, and think about what are the things you can control about your challenge and what are the things you cannot control about your challenge. What are your thoughts now about the challenges or the challenge that you have? What is the first thing you would want to focus on right now? Also think, how will you manage your challenges? You can list specific steps that you will take to manage your challenges. Your steps need to be realistic and manageable. You also need to think, what support do you need to manage your challenges? We are right at the end of the presentation. Lisa?
Thank you, Dr. Kuri-san. We did share yesterday, you spoke about, that we need to create a village to raise this child or this baby, which is our studies. So please feel free to reach out to us anytime in terms of getting support. So counseling@unisa.ac.za is our email address. So that's the easiest way to get a hold of us. You can also book online appointments. You can talk to a counselor at one of the UNISA regional centers. We also have a website with a lot of resources that you can use to help you manage your studies, your career development, as well as your personal development. And then also a link to our YouTube channel where we've also posted a number of presentations such as this one for you to access. So I did post a copy of this in the chat yesterday, but I'll also just post it again today for those who may not have attended. But thank you very much for hearing us out, and we hope that this is not the last of our engagements. Thank you.
Lisa and Dr. Korisan, I see the students are really engaging and they are really finding value in speaking about this. You know, for so long in my specific culture, you don't speak out when you are struggling and you keep it all struggled in. And this is a difficult thing, guys. That's why not everybody has got an honors degree. If we take Prof. Cronje's route and we quickly go to Pi and we ask him, I'll always make them into humanoids and give them a gender, but it's a it, and we ask it, right? How many students have got a postgraduate degree in the world? Let us see what it gives us. Let's just talk to him quickly. What are you seeing percentage of people?
Maybe as you are still asking him, my friend always
Yeah.
call him Bob.
Bob. Okay,
Yeah.
let's ask Bob.
Yeah. I always say this. I like how you have put this, and I'm going to be very personal. I said yesterday that I got all my qualifications at UNISA. And when I was doing my PhD, especially, I would sit next to Lisa. And I would come one day in the morning and I say, Lisa, that's it. I want to tell you, I've decided I can't do this anymore. It won't change my life. I would even justify because I didn't sleep. I got a chapter and I'm like, yo, this is painful. And I remember Lisa would just say, Chips, take some time. Let's talk later. And we would go down in the building where we used to sit and we start just talking about it, the vulnerability that I have to show to Lisa. And I'm a qualified clinical psychologist and Lisa is a research consultant. And with the dynamics of the profession itself, clinical psychologist seems to be sorted with their emotions and all that. But also remember, it's about you as a human being. And when I completed my PhD, one of the things that I always say to people, it's not the smartest who will manage this. It's also people who also know how to manage their vulnerability and reach out for support when they need it, to just say, I need you, even if it's just to listen to me. I know there are colleagues who are better than me, who can write better than me, who can do everything better than me. But because sometimes they can't reach out to say, I need support, I need time, they could still struggle to get this PhD. It's very painful. And sometimes the pain we create it in our own thoughts because we come from a culture that we must be strong, we cannot ask for help, but that dehumanizes us. And I think we will talk further when we talk about depression, about being human, and the idea that we dehumanize ourselves. Thank you, Doc.
That's good. Thank you. Yes, no, Doc, I must say, I think that is what all people in South Africa have in common, regardless of race or gender, is that we don't talk about emotions. Like South Africans, we can laugh at ourselves, but on the edge or on the surface, we don't want to dig deeper. So you can see Bob showed us that in the US, only 37% of adults over 25 have a bachelor's degree. Dr. Van Wyk, however, helped us with the South African statistics. 6% of the South African population have got a degree. So you are sitting here in this class and you are already part of only 6% of people in South Africa who have managed to get a university degree. So I want you all to react and give yourself a round of applause today, because getting here is already made you special. So don't stress about the next journey too much. You know you will get there. It might take a little bit longer, but you must already give yourself a round of applause. If there are no more questions, then I'm going to stop the recording for now. I will